makes it cheaper. No, I guess that could happen. It's interesting, you know, from a management perspective, it's so important to have one voice, and I think in our instance, it really landed on the director to represent the staff, to represent the visitors, to represent, you know, the collection, to represent what she called the legacy of Isabella Stewart Gardner. So I do think, and I think it plays out different ways in different institutions, but everybody needs, in some ways, that one person where everything ends up, you know, one person that can make a decision, even if their job, and it was the case in ours, even if in the process of making that decision, your job is to actually make sure the staff understands it, and you have to sell it to the staff, or you have to sell it to the board. I think in the end, to have a strong program and a strong building, you need probably a single voice, or at least a single board member working with the director.
Yeah. Well, Sally gave me the signal. So, any questions? Yes. One question.
Thanks. That was really interesting. We, of course, are going through this process in many phases, but I wonder, especially when you were showing the layer cake of the different chronologies and to Debbie too, how do you build in space for growth, and how far out are you really envisioning that these new buildings will accommodate that growth, or, you know, when's the next renovation kind of thing? Which I hate to think about, but we're trying to avoid that, you know, like what's the lifespan of?
Well, it's hard to believe we're not even open 18 months. You know, here we are in May. It feels like it's been a lot longer. But all of the galleries are sized fairly regularly, with the exception of the one you saw with the 49-foot beam, which was the other reason Foster didn't really want it. It didn't conform. But within each of the floors, the actual framing devices that you saw in some of those photographs of prototyping, those are consistent throughout the wing, and they can be customized. So you saw them in Revolutionary Boston customized with wallpaper. In other places over time, you know, we have wide board floors there, but on other floors it might be organic material like cork in the 40s, 50s. So the whole idea was, as the collection evolves and changes, and we know, I think, what our core collections in Boston are in a large degree, the broad brush statements are in those spine galleries, but let's say some new collection comes in future generations and people redefine that portion of the building, you know, Art of the Americas or whatever. I hope those spaces they're intended to accommodate works of art in a kind of in a domestically scaled kind of setting.
And for me, for the three projects that I worked on, the back spaces, in a way, were more important than the front spaces, and being able to expand on storage and things like that, it just, you never had enough, so.
Yeah, I mean, to state the obvious, you know, in almost all of in any institution, or almost any institution, we have so much more work, many more works in the collection than we can ever show. It's a small percentage. So part of it is determining, you know, what is the scale of the program that you can actually sustain. And if you want to reconfigure it differently for, you know, to highlight other collections, or as time goes forward to, you know, do the mix-up, I think the building needs to be flexible in order to accommodate that minimally. Certainly on the Quincy Street site, the old Fogg site, there could never be more expansion onto that. So if in the future the art museum, the Harvard Art Museums decides to expand, it would have to be on another site, as we had anticipated doing in the past.
I would only add, it's exhibition space. It is a huge challenge. Our project wasn't mostly about exhibition space, whereas I think these are staff space as well has been one of the immediate challenges that I've noticed, where I've said to people, please don't hire, please don't hire anybody for the next year or so, because it is hard to think how much will an institution grow in 5 or 10 years, and it's crazy when you're sort of nearing the end of construction to start to think, okay, in 5, 10 years, where's staff going? What's the next move, either off-site or on-site? It's a great question.
Well, thank you all for coming. You've come at a particularly great time to be in Boston, and we're delighted you've chosen Boston to be here.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, right. Really interesting.
Thank you. You guys are great.
We're running about 15 minutes long, but I think that that'll be fine. And if I am correct in that There should be a coffee station outside this door, backed by popular demand, mostly by Canadian demand. We'll convene back